This is Catholic Dad, video number 57. Is the Federal Reserve System politically impartial? So what is the Federal Reserve System? A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's the central bank of the United States of America. Now, when our founding fathers instituted our government, they did not want central banking at all. They were so tired of it. Europe was constantly at wars. They were constantly meddling in foreign affairs. And it was because of the liquid economy, the liquid money supply through central banking, that governments were able to do that without the people revolting. And so the founding fathers were very specific that only gold and silver could be legal tender within the United States of America, and they never wanted anything to do with central banking. And in fact, the first counterfeit laws were the counterfeit laws 1792. I think it was the Gold Act or something like that. That if you try to counterfeit money in the United States of America, the penalty was death, right? And so what is counterfeiting, by the way? Counterfeiting is this. So you have this fixed money supply, and this money supply goes out, and you circulate it throughout the economy, and people can pay for goods and services and debt and interest payments with this fixed money supply. Counterfeiting is this. You actually create extra money, and you use it to spend into the economy. Essentially, you're stealing from other people, and you start expanding the money supply illegally. That's what counterfeiting is. And so as the money supply expands illegally, prices go up. That's called inflation. Whenever you expand a money supply, it's called inflation. Well, anyway, so in 1792, if you tried to expand the money supply, the penalty was death. And that should wake everybody up to, because our Federal Reserve System right now, it actually operates through counterfeiting. Like, it can actually create rotating currency, and currency that is used within the population. It could expand at its will, it can contract at its will, and it does this through the price of money by either raising or decreasing interest rates. And so how do you expand money supply within a population? What you do is you make the cost of money cheaper, which means that you drop the interest rates. So the Federal Reserve System can actually artificially drop interest rates, and that will signal to people that money is cheap. And so what you do is you inspire people, or you encourage people to go take loans out through your monetary policy. And so people will start buying up cars, houses, anything they can get their hands on, because the money, they don't have to pay much money back in the future. But all debt is on variable rate loans. And so if they wanted to contract the money supply, what they do is they make the cost of money more expensive. And so they start raising rates. And so suddenly it becomes more expensive to borrow money. And what does that do? That disincentivizes people from borrowing money. But what it also does is it incentivizes people to save money. And so essentially, interest rates are the price of money. It's also the risk of investing. So if you have a high savings rate in a population and you have a lot of money, interest rates should be very low. You have lots of savings, so it should be easy to loan out money at low interest rates. But if you don't have a lot of savings within a population, that should be a signal to the market economy that people should save more, and therefore the cost of money should go up, and it should encourage people to save. Now let's think about the United States of America in the last 10 years. We had a housing crash and a stock market crash, and what happened was when George W. Bush was president, they started raising interest rates. And what did that do? Well, it made the cost of all the debt that people incurred on the housing crises and car loans, student loans, all the other stuff, the interest rates started going up. So that sent a signal to the marketplace that people shouldn't be taking on so many loans and they should start saving. And so all of a sudden people were unwilling to take on the debt to buy the houses that kept going up in value, and that created the housing crash. Well, anyway, so what happened was a lot of debt was liquidated. A lot of the asset depreciation occurred, and then Barack Obama became president of the United States of America at almost the exact same time. And so what did the Federal Reserve hand him? We had a low savings rate. We had a whole bunch of debt. That should have meant that interest rates should have been higher. But what they did was they artificially lowered them, and people started incurring tons and tons and tons of debt. And it wasn't even just the people that were doing it, but it was mostly the government that was doing it. The government was doing all the spending for the people that could have been doing it, or actually couldn't have been doing it. So it was artificial. And so we expanded our economy in terms of debt load by 100% when Barack Obama was president, which should not have happened. What should have happened was The asset bubbles collapsed. There was a low savings rate. There was a high debt rate, and they should have allowed the liquidation of debt, and that should have been the end of the crisis. But what the Federal Reserve System did was it rewarded Barack Obama. It rewarded him with cheap money, and cheap money for literally 8 years, like the entire tenure of his presidency. And that cheap money, it floated around, and it should have made an exploding economy, but all the regulation and whatever else, that made it so the economy didn't explode as much as it should have. As soon as Barack Obama left office, the December after the election, right before he was actually out of office, the Federal Reserve actually made the conscious decision to start raising interest rates. So what happened was Donald Trump's presidency, or at least what everybody perceives as Donald Trump's presidency, then became culpable for the interest paid on the debt that Barack Obama was allowed to spend. That should bother everybody intrinsically. And in fact, they've been raising interest rates every quarter since Donald Trump was made president of the United States of America. They only raised them one time under the presidency of Barack Obama. So that tells you something, that the Federal Reserve is not politically neutral. It's not independent of any kind of political thought. It actually has an agenda on its. It actually has an agenda, and its agenda is the typical deep state New World Order agenda. Like if it gets a president that's has loose morals, it believes the president believes in moral relativism, international conquest, believes in supporting the military-industrial complex, big pharma, big state, big corporation, the whole thing that Donald Trump lobbied against. That the central bank will work with that president to give him as much cheap asset as he can utilize. But if the president speaks against big foreign wars, bringing the troops home, contraction of the welfare state, freedom and liberty for all people, that same Federal Reserve System is going to work against that president and is actually going to penalize him by raising interest rates and making the debt incurred throughout the history of the United States of America more expensive. And so this is Catholic Dad, just getting to think about, is the Federal Reserve neutral? And the answer is undoubtedly no. But the Federal Reserve itself, if you read about it, you should be really bothered about it, by it, because it's an independent body separate from the local control of our government. I mean, the president gets to appoint federal board members, but he's even under a lot of pressure for that. And so it gets to operate outside the venues of constitutional government, outside of the venues of the democratic process, and it can actually drive politics through monetary policy without the consent of the people it's supposed to govern. That should bother everybody intrinsically. The Federal Reserve needs an audit. We need to know what's on the books of the Federal Reserve, and hopefully one day people will wake up to this, and America will return to a more sound monetary policy, which actually may include a commodity-based currency like the Gold Act of 1792. That, yeah, we have this stable currency. It's based upon something real and not paper, and not the promise of a people, but based upon a real asset. And so there you have it. This is Catholic Dad signing off. If you like this video, please like or subscribe, and or share with your friends, mind you. And God bless. Pray the daily rosary and get the confession of Mass. Thank you.